The Tetragrammaton, the 72 names of God. You see, they're all connected within 3 verses, Exodus 19 through 21. And get this, you'll like this. If you arrange the 4 Hebrew letters in God's name within an equilateral triangle, their numerical values add up to the same number, 72. Hello, and welcome to Visions of the Past. My name is Andrew, and I am your guide to the lore of Assassin's Creed. This is episode 29, and today we're going to talk about the importance of what Sean Hastings was talking about in his quote, and that is the importance of the number 72 within Assassin's Creed. It's hard to pin down every place you find the number 72 in the Assassin's Creed series, but that doesn't mean it isn't something worth talking about. It just adds more mystery to the number. First mentioned in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, the number 72 is one of the most consistent things in the series, and sometimes it is just something that is coincidental. I mentioned Assassin's Creed Brotherhood as its first mention because it's the first place where the number is brought to our attention as something that is important within the series. Before Sean gave us that quote, we only had a few random coincidental places where we would have seen 72 mentioned or implied, like San Gimignano having 72 towers in its heyday, as stated by the database in Assassin's Creed 2, or Giovanni Montenegro being the 72nd Doge of Venice. Our first hints about the number 72 within Brotherhood are really early in the game, when Desmond Miles' group of assassins arrive at the Villa Auditore. Just before opening the door to the sanctuary, Desmond saw a tetractys, that is, an equilateral triangle with 9 other equilaterals within it, and the numbers 1419, 1420, and 1421. This was meant as a clue on how to enter the Colosseum Vault, an Isu temple located beneath the Santa Maria Ascioli in Rome. The vault was first visited sometime around 45 BC by Marcus Junius Brutus, and what he saw there would eventually inspire him to plot the downfall of Julius Caesar. Brutus made a drawing of the vault and hid the password along with the drawing within scrolls that he attached to keys that would unlock the door to his family armor that he had hidden in Rome. Eventually, Ezio Auditore found these scrolls along with the armor and used the information within it to hide an apple of Eden. After hiding the apple, Esmond returned to the villa to place the clues that Desmond's group would later find. On the way to retrieve the apple, Lucy Stillman states that the date was October 10th, 72 days before the launch of Abstergo's Eye satellite. After retrieving the apple in the vault, Juno would also tell Desmond that his journey would begin on the 72nd day before the Awakening. The last time that the number is referenced within Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was within the Da Vinci Disappearance DLC. The number is never spoken aloud during it. However, there are many references to the Pythagorean unifier, a number that supposedly lay inside the temple of Pythagoras. Going through the DLC and its conversations between Ezio and Leonardo da Vinci, they talk about how the Hermetists believed that the forces of nature could be whittled down to numbers, and that the mathematics could act on nature by allowing man to harness its power. Once reaching the center of the temple, they found symbols that were not Pythagorean. Instead of seeing the Pythagorean unifier, they saw quadrants to the Grand Temple, though they would not know what it meant. Before leaving, Leonardo was disappointed, but Ezio just walked away, stating that no number can repair the world. At this point, I'm sure you're asking why 72? Why not 71 or 73? Well, there are more reasons than just the Tetragrammaton. Looking through multiple religions, the number 72 comes up over and over again. Of course, there is the already mentioned names of God, but some sources also state that there were 72 different languages spoken within the Tower of Babel. And, according to Zohar, Jacob's ladder to heaven was said to be at 72 degrees. And there were also 72 disciples of Confucius who mastered his teachings. In an Egyptian creation myth, Thoth wins a 72nd of each day of the year from the moon in a game of draughts. As a favor to Nut, the sky goddess, he uses these portions to make up the 5 intercalary days on which the remaining gods and goddesses are born. The good god Osiris was enclosed in a coffin by 72 evil disciples and accomplices of Set. There are 72 stupas, which comprise Barbador, the world's largest Buddhist temple. 72 major temples have been found at Angkor, which is the seat of the ancient Khmer Empire. There are more instances in multiple religions. These were only a few examples. Assassin's Creed, since its inception, has always been a series that takes coincidences like these and spins a narrative out of them. The narrative throughout the series with 72 is that because it was some code to open the Colosseum vault in Rome, it was placed throughout all these different religions so that it would be remembered, and one day the apple could be hidden to later be found by Desmond. While being the password to open the vault, it's not the only place where we see 72 show up in the series. Some placements of the number are just meant as intentional Easter eggs, while others are nothing more than coincidence, though some have a connection if you stretch things further than most would think to stretch them. For instance, some characters in the series lived to the age of 72. These characters, being based on historical figures like Rodrigo Borgia and Israel Putnam, one of note, though, was Ezio's own mother, Maria. There were even a few mentions about 72 in terms of time, like an assassin team in Osaka that was supposed to make contact in 72 hours, but went dark instead. Or Daniel Cross being left in the Animus for 72 hours straight. To even go as far as to say that Hatham's trip from England to Boston took 72 days. After talking about the Tetragrammaton, Sean also states that the construction of the Colosseum started in the year 72, and that Desmond himself was born on the 72nd day of 1987. There are also some historical instances of the number that tie directly into the series, even if they are not mentioned outright. Some of these examples have to do with the Knights Templar, like the Latin rule, which is like a creed to the Templars, which was written by Hugues de Piennes and Bernard de Clairvaux, having 72 clauses, and that 72 knights testified before Pope Clement V during the trials surrounding the disbandment of the order in 1308. The number also ties into one of Ezio's best friends, Leonardo da Vinci's work, including the space between the man's lower arm and upper leg having an angle of 72 degrees in the Vitruvian Man, and that his most famous scientific journal, the Codex Lanchester, has 72 pages. There is one mention that I found, though, that feels like it was a big stretch, but I feel that it's important to add here. At the end of Brotherhood, Sean mentioned that a Phrygian cap and a Masonic eye came together in only one place. This one place was actually on the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen in France, which was approved in 1789. But if you take that year, 1789, and subtract 17 from 89, you get 72. I want to thank Tier 1 Assassin over on Twitter for suggesting today's topic. When I first played Brotherhood a decade ago, I didn't know about the historical and religious context of the number, but after his suggestion, I started to look into it, and found the number shows up so many times in the series that it has embedded itself within the lore. Seeing how many times it shows up in religious connotations made it the perfect number to use as a password to enter a first civilization vault that takes its inspiration from the Temple of Juno Moneta, a temple that some historically believe sits under the Basilica of Santa Maria in Aracoli. What I mean by this is that if you have the number that shows up so often in religious connotations, and are having your main character go to a Roman church that is supposedly built on top of an ancient Roman temple, whose pantheon you've taken, along with other ancient civilizations' pantheons, to create the first civilization, it makes perfect sense to want to use that number as a password. When it comes to Pythagoras, though, I couldn't find information about him or his followers specifically in relationship to the number of 72. But I did see that his teachings dealt with numbers in a great way, even so far as to study perfect numbers. A number is perfect if it is equal to the sum of all of its divisors, and there are mystical properties. While 72 is not a perfect number, using it as the number Pythagoras was searching for, even if not mentioned during his time in the series, makes sense to me and ties into the greater lore of the series. Thank you for joining me today, Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for new episodes. If you love the Visions of the Past podcast, I'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes. If you have any questions about Assassin's Creed or topics that you would like me to cover, please feel free to hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at visions_AC. Until next time, my assassin friends, make sure to follow the creed. And to those Templars listening, may the Father of Understanding guide you.